I'm going to go back these 2 slides. Okay, just to recap, I'm sorry, guys. I forgot to start the recording, and I really want this recorded for future people. So to summarize, this is regarding the scope of appointment, its applications, and any questions you might have on it will be answered at the end of this thing. So what is the purpose of the scope of appointment form? The scope of appointment form is used to document in-person appointments with beneficiaries to ensure that no other types of products are discussed outside of what the beneficiary originally requested. What are the different plan types the beneficiary can initiate they want to discuss? Medicare Advantage, with and without prescription drugs, and standalone prescription drug plans. On our generic, we call it ours, it's not ours, it's a generic scope of appointment. If you don't have a copy of this, you can contact the office, the call center, agent support. Send an email to me today at tim@teamalvarez.net, and I will make sure you get a copy. We have it both in English and in Spanish. It outlines 5 product types. Again, this is just to have the opportunity to be able to discuss these and have it clearly communicated to them that you're allowed to talk about these. Anything that's not on here, you're not allowed to talk about. Who does the scope of appointment form protect? The form protects a beneficiary being solicited for a product that he or she did not originally express an interest in. When is the appointment confirmation required? The form is required when meeting in person with a potential new or existing beneficiary or someone seeking information on behalf of a beneficiary. What is meant by an in-person meeting? In general, an in-person meeting means the meeting was not advertised or open to the general public. It was initiated by the beneficiary or by specific personal invitation only. The scope of sales appointment confirmation form is defined by the Centers of Medicare and Medicare Services, requires agents to document the scope of a marketing appointment prior to any face-to-face sales meeting, to ensure understanding of what will be discussed between the agent and the beneficiary or their authorized representative. All information provided on this form is confidential and should be completed by each person with Medicare or his or her representative. Is the SOA form required when an agent meets with more than one beneficiary in an in-person meeting? The answer is yes. In general, it's the nature of the meeting rather than the size of the group that determines whether the form is required. If the meeting was set up in an in-person appointment, the form is required. If the meeting is advertised as a sales event or open to the general public, this form is not required. What if the agent shows up at an appointment to meet with the beneficiary who had already completed the form, and other people, i.e. friends of the beneficiary, are present and wish to stay and receive the same information? The agent requests the other people. Whoa, we got a little overwhelmed here. Whoever just came on and said that they're awesome, you need to mute your telephone.
Thank you.
If you can mute your telephones, that would be great, guys.
Hello.
Hello. Whoever just said hello, can you mute your telephone? Okay, I still hear a couple other phones out there. If you can mute your phone, that would be great. So, basically, the agent must request that other people complete their own form. The appointment can then proceed. So if there are multiple people there really is supposed to be a scope on each one of them as they're receiving this information, as well as the original person that came. Is the SOA form required if the appointment is with the beneficiary's 30-year-old grandson, granddaughter, or a person shopping on behalf of a neighbor, friend, or family member? Yes, the form is required unless, regardless of age and regardless of whether the person is shopping for himself, herself, or on the behalf of a neighbor, friend, or family member. Anybody that you're going to be talking to regarding benefits with the Medicare Advantage plan, with or without drugs, or a prescription drug plan, if you're going to be having a conversation with them face-to-face, they need to go to complete this form prior to you talking about the benefits. What if the agent suspects that the person at the appointment may be a Centers for Medicare and Medicaid Services secret shopper or representative? The agent must proceed with the appointment as if the person is a potential Medicare member and conduct the appointment accordingly. Is the SOA form required when the agent holds a small group event with individuals who were personally invited and the event is not open or advertised to the public at large? Yes, because the event is a closed event to the general public and participation is by invitation, this is considered a personal face-to-face setting. Can the agent ask the person at or before the appointment if he or she is a secret shopper? Well, wouldn't that be nice? No. The agent must treat all potential members as if they are Medicare beneficiaries. Is the scope of appointment form required when the agent holds a small group event with individuals who were personally invited and the event is not open or advertised? Oh, did I hit the wrong button? Yes, because the event is closed to the public and participation is by invitation. This is considered a personal setting. Is the scope of appointment form required at sales or marketing events? No. Sales events are usually open to the general public and are not considered an in-person appointment.
Hello? Hello?
Whoever just answered the phone, could you please mute your phone? Okay, guys. So can the agent collect the scope of appointment form at a sales event and hold a personal appointment immediately after the sales event?
Pero ¿por qué
Yes.
había tres? Dime.
Can you mute it from
No,
your
pues yo
server?
mandando una aplicación. Mira, ahorita estoy en un meeting y luego tengo 2 citas.
Hey.
Te puedo llamar a como entre 1:30 o 2 de la tarde. So, voy a hablar primero a Pico de California para que me digas qué es lo que pasó. Porque yo lo único que hago es
Wow,
renovar.
guys. Sorry about this.
Hey, why don't you
The little code to mute the phone isn't working.
Okay. Mira, las pólizas las hacen las aseguranzas. So, voy a revisar tu información y voy a...
Okay, I've tried every code. It won't work.
Y yo te regreso la llamada más tarde.
Okay, so
Yo te digo, ahorita tengo una situación y luego
a
tengo...
group of beneficiaries can complete and sign the form during a sales presentation for a follow-up appointment. That is allowed to take place immediately following the sales event or any time thereafter. Is the scope of appointment form required for an educational event? No. As long as the educational event does not have any sales or marketing activities associated with it, as long as they are strictly held for educational purposes. Is the scope of appointment form required when someone walks in to an agent's office without prior appointment and wishes to discuss various plans? Yes, the form is required even if the sales or marketing event is a result of a walk-in. In this case, the form requires the agent to indicate that the meeting was a walk-in. We'll get to that part on the form here later. If the beneficiary checks only one box, that actually should say initials one box because you're not allowed to check them. So if the beneficiary initials only one box, can I persuade him or her during the meeting to check the other to initial the other box to discuss the other products? The answer is no. The agent cannot persuade the beneficiary from going beyond the original scope of appointment form. Only the beneficiary can initiate this. Is the form required if the beneficiary wants to meet and only discuss non-sales or non-marketing types of questions, such as where to send premium checks or where to call to inquire about their claims? No. The form is only required when the agent will be conducting a sales or marketing function. Non-sales or non-marketing functions, such as customer service functions, do not require the form. However, The moment when the meeting turns into a sales or marketing meeting, the form must be executed. If a beneficiary initials the box for Medicare Advantage plans, Part C, and cost plans, can I discuss all the different types of plans listed under that category, such as HMO, PPO, and private fee-for-service? The answer is yes. The agent can discuss any of the different types of plans listed under that category as long as the agent is authorized to market and sell those products. If a beneficiary asks to discuss another product during the same meeting, example, an MA during a PDP appointment, what must you do? The agent must ask the beneficiary to complete a new scope of appointment form with the new product selection that he or she wishes to discuss. The new product can be discussed as soon as the beneficiary's request is documented. A new form must be completed prior to discussing the new product requested. Must the scope appointment form be completed prior to the appointment? The form should be completed by the beneficiary and returned prior to the appointment. However, if the above is not feasible, as an example would be because the beneficiary scheduled the appointment on the same day, or the agent learns of the beneficiary's desires to discuss Medicare-specific plans upon arrival to the appointment, or during the appointment, the agent may have the beneficiary sign the form prior to any discussion of the plan benefits, cost, or even plan names. In this case, the scope of appointment form requires the agent to indicate why the form was not executed prior to the appointment. So this is where people get confused. A lot of times, the appointment form is actually done in advance of you getting there for the appointment, and you just get there and the appointment form's done and you're all set to go. There are many times that you have no idea what this person is wanting to talk about. So it's more than acceptable to do this scope of appointment form on the day of the appointment, even if you haven't done it in advance. The important thing is to do it before you actually discuss the benefits. A lot of people don't realize that. It's perfectly fine to do that. What happens if the beneficiary refuses to complete or sign the form? The agent should advise the beneficiary the appointment cannot be conducted if the form is not executed. The agent should advise the beneficiary that the form is there to protect the beneficiary, and that by executing the form, the beneficiary is not obligated to enroll in any plan or obligate the beneficiary to do anything else. Here's that one thing. Must the beneficiary initial the box in the form, or can he or she simply check the box? They must initial the box in the form. Checking the box is not adequate. What can the agent do or discuss during the appointment? The agent can do any of the following: discuss various plan options, distribute plan materials, including the enrollment kit, distribute or collect enrollment forms, advise on how to get plan information, mail, websites, customer service, your own personal telephone number, provide educational content. Sorry, I thought there was one more. Can the agent market non-healthcare related products at the appointment? It's a big no, guys. Non-healthcare products such as annuities or life insurance cannot be discussed during a Medicare health plan meeting in any context whatsoever. Can the agent ask the beneficiary to refer other customers to the agent for business? This is a big one, guys. No. The agent cannot ask the beneficiary to have their friends and family contact the agent if they are interested in Medicare insurance plans. The agent also cannot ask the beneficiary to provide him or her with contact information for their friends and family for unsolicited contact by the agent. If the beneficiary asks the agent to contact their friends and family about a Medicare insurance plan, the agent can provide the beneficiary with contact information such as a business card that the individual can give to their friend or family member so that individual can contact the agent directly. Thank you cards are a big thing here. Because we're not allowed to solicit referrals during our initial meeting with these people, with the beneficiaries, we want to be able to make sure that we have a strategy in place that after we help them, we can ask for referrals. So a simple thank you card with a couple business cards saying, I'd love to help other people in your family, friends or family, goes a long way. If the beneficiary voluntarily provides names of friends or family members who are also interested in learning about the plan options, can the agent email or call those people? The answer is no. The agent cannot call or email referrals obtained during the appointment. However, the agent may provide their business card to the beneficiary to give to a friend or family member. Can the agent solicit or accept an enrollment application for January 1 effective date prior to the annual election period? No. If the appointment is held before the AEP, the agent cannot solicit or accept the beneficiary's enrollment application for a January effective date. This restriction does not apply when the beneficiary is enrolling under a special enrollment period or during his or her initial coverage enrollment period. How should the scope of appointment form be retained? It's a big one, guys. Whether the beneficiary enrolls or not, Medicare requires that you retain a copy of the scope of appointment form for a minimum of 10 years and make it available to Medicare or the plans upon request. In addition, Team Alvarez requires that you send in with your enrollment documents the scope form for all that do enroll. This is a good backup. This is a good backup for you should you misplace any such forms. Should the agent keep a log of all the appointments scheduled and attended? Yes, all appointments that are scheduled must be logged, noting which appointments were actually held. This log is used for CMS auditing purposes. Thank you for attending. Sorry about the rush, guys. I knew that get this in under 30 minutes was going to be pretty tight. I'm going to go ahead and open up for any kind of specific questions. In a moment, I want to review quickly what we call the generic scope of appointment form. I'm just going to do it here real quick in English. Again, get an email out to me. If you don't have this, this is the one you should be using, folks. The appointment confirmation, the scope of sales appointment confirmation form looks like this. It has the 5 selections. It includes your name, their name. If you go down, I wish you guys could see my cursor. Oh, you can. On my cursor that's moving here, initial method of contact, a lot of people make up all kinds of things to put in this box. Basically, this is where you would put if they were a walk-in or other such thing. The initial method of contact can be something as simple as beneficiary request. In other words, how did you get a hold of them? They requested you. Scroll down here a little bit. Down a little bit further, under agent signature, you have plans the agent represented during this meeting. A lot of people interpret this differently. I keep it real simple. I don't put the name of the health plans. I use the categories that kind of coincide with up above. So HMO, PPO, etc. That part where it was talking about if the appointment occurred on the same, if the form was signed on the same day of the appointment, it says, please provide an explanation of why the SOA was not documented prior to the meeting. This is this section right here. Down below it says plan use only. In this case, we're the plan. So they want to see explanations for why things happened on the same day. This is where you would put why it happened on the same day. Beneficiary added that they wanted to talk about PDPs. Another thing that you can put here is beneficiary request. Why did it happen that day? Because that's when they requested that it happen. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and open up the mic to everybody. If anybody has any questions, please send me an email indicating that you attended this meeting. Okay, guys? Go ahead. Anybody have any questions? Not one?
Tim,
Yes,
with
sir.
the generic, Humana ties the number of their scope to their application. So what are you going to put on the Humana application if you're using the generic scope? Just leave it blank?
You can put generic scope if you prefer. If you write a lot of Humana and you typically write that plan, then you can go ahead and use the company scope. We're not saying you can't use the company scope. If you use this generic scope every time, it limits the amount of mistakes that are made because everybody's scope's a little bit different. Also, we run into a situation where you're not a Humana agent, you have other products. So in the areas where you send them out in advance, do you send out 6 scopes representing every company? Probably not. So what happens is, as an investigator doing an audit, if they notice that you're always using their form and you're not indicating that the form was sent out in advance, that can get a little bit sketchy because when did it happen? And a lot of them don't have on there, why it was completed on the same day. So you don't get an opportunity to write it in. So it's your own personal preference. We recommend using our generic scope. Humana is one of those ones that makes it a little bit more difficult for that.
I'd rather
but
use
they
the
do
generic.
allow generic scopes.
I'd rather use the generic. Will it be a problem with Humana, do you know, if I send the generic?
No, it's not a problem. You just, where they put the scope page identifier number, just put generic scope or gen scope attached.
Perfect, thanks.
No problem. Anybody else?
Tim.
This is Tammy.
Yes.
And I have a question. When you get an appointment from the call center,
Yes.
how do you put that down? On your paper.
Good.
You know where it's at?
Yeah, good question. That again, I like to keep it simple because you've never spoken when the call center sets an appointment. You've never spoken to this individual. You have no idea what they're calling about, other than our appointments aren't Medicare Advantage specific. We don't talk about Medicare Advantage or PDPs. We talk about a Medicare options review. So when you go to one of our sales appointments and you learn that it might be going the direction of where a scope is needed, that's where you go ahead and you execute the scope. So initial method of contact, again, I put beneficiary request. They requested that you be there that day, and that's your initial method of contact, was that they requested you.
Okay, so up there where it says, how did you hear about us? Do I just put customer request? A beneficiary
you can put beneficiary request, or you can put appointment through Team Alvarez, whatever you're comfortable putting. I like putting simple things because if you put something that they don't understand, then, they're going to investigate it. It's going to stand out, and so they're going to investigate it. There's a number of these. They investigate every single cycle, regardless of what we put. So those are just going to happen. But if it says beneficiary request, for instance, they're going to say, hey, what happened with Smith? How did you hear about this person? And I'm going to know that was an appointment set through Team Alvarez. And I'm going to say, oh, the beneficiary requested through Team Alvarez that I come and see them.
Okay. The date, the time we put on there is the time that they give us the appointment.
I'm sorry, say that again.
Okay, what time do we put on the paper? Is the time that's on the appointment? Do they have on there?
Yeah, when you're filling it out. You never need to backdate a scope of appointment. A lot of times people feel, I always say it's better to be clear about what you're doing and be wrong than to lie about it. So if, for instance, if somebody, I'm not indicating anybody's lying here, I know that this gets confusing, and we were just wanting to do what works. One of the reasons we're having this topic today is because, people don't know what they're allowed to do, so they make something up. And I just want to clear that up. For instance, let's say you got an appointment on the 3rd to go out and see somebody on the 7th. And you go out and you sit with them. Well, you can't put that you saw them on the 3rd, and you're sitting them with on the 7th. What a lot of people will do is they'll date it the 5th. Now, to me, that makes no sense. They're trying to adhere to this 48-hour rule, which didn't happen. So if it didn't happen, don't backdate the scope by 2 days. Date it the same day, put the reason why it was the same day, and then you're not, telling a fib. Because if I call Mr. and Mrs. Smith and say, oh, agent so-and-so went out there on the 7th, we're doing a quality assurance call to make sure that you understood everything, I see here that you signed a form on the 5th, and they're going to go, well, I never signed any form on the 5th. And so then it looks like you're lying, and you don't need to. If you met somebody on the same day as you went over the benefits, the scope of appointment form allows for that. So just do that. That make sense?
Okay. It makes sense. Thank you.
All right. I heard one other. Was it Richard had a question?
A couple, Tim. On the scope of appointment, rather than keep a paper, I actually sent you a text, but I'll just go ahead and ask. Rather than keeping paper, can we scan them and save them electronically rather than have the actual paper, or does it have to be the original?
Good question, Richard. That's a great one. It does not. Any form of the scope. So if you scan it in and keep a customer file in your computer, we're completely paperless here at Team Alvarez. And so any documented copy of it for that 10-year period is fine. You do not need to keep an original.
Perfect. Second question is, Tim, is it okay if I contact you and you can help me, set up? I have no idea as far as how, what types of programs I need, and as far as being compliant, and safety, security, just in general. I'd like to spend some time with you.
Absolutely. And, thanks for bringing that up, Richard, because I love when people ask questions because 3 people have it on their mind and they just don't want to say something. The management here at Team Alvarez is really committed to you guys understanding and performing well. We really want you to stand on, great people's shoulders and be very successfard. So anything that we can do to help, there is no silly question. There's a lot of people that have worked with us over the time. Richard was here in the office for quite a few months, and if anybody can attest to our availability, he can. We definitely will we'll make any arrangements that we can to answer any questions that you have. It's so much easier when you have a question than trying to prepare you to go out into the field. When you actually have a question, it's much easier to help. So please, whenever you have a question, go ahead and help. I'm going to go ahead and turn the recording off on this, but I'm going to stay on